Hello, this is Christopher Helke from Calient Networks, and today I'm going to teach you how to use the reel counter. So to start off, you need to turn on the reel counter. To do this, you tap the on-off button once. To turn off the reel counter, you hold down the on-off button for 2 seconds and then release. Next, you go onto the right side of the machine to set up the correct settings for the reel you're going to use. Now I'm going to show you which settings correspond to which reels. So one is the setting that you pick for when every one hole there's one part. So illustrated by the diagram on the right, there's a 1-to-1 ratio of holes to parts. You set the settings for 2 for when every 2 holes there's one part, illustrated by the diagram on the right. Following this pattern, 3 means for every 3 holes there's one part. Now the one tricky setting is 0. 0 does not follow this common pattern. 0 means for when every one hole there are 2 parts. So you can look at it this way: 0 is the smallest, while 3 is the largest. These settings can be a little bit tricky, so you may need to revisit this part of the video a few times before you get them down. Now the next step is to verify that you have the correct settings before you count the entire reel. And to do this, I've devised a very simple test to check that your reel counter is calibrated correctly. When you open up a reel, normally there are a few empty spaces before the parts begin. So the first step is to make a Sharpie mark where the first part begins after the empty spaces. Then you count up 20 spaces and make another mark with a Sharpie illustrated by this diagram. Now once you make these 2 marks, you will have 20 pieces contained within these 2 Sharpie mark regions. So now it's time to put the reel onto the machine. So first off, you take off the black plastic knob, place the reel in the machine, and then you reattach this black plastic clamp. Then you thread the reel underneath these 2 plastic circles and attach it to the counter in the middle, like so. And you want to stop at the first Sharpie mark. Next, you want to go down and press the reset button. And this step is crucial because it sets the count to 0 and calibrates the machine correctly. Otherwise, you will not get an accurate count. Next, you pull the reel to the right from the first Sharpie mark 20 spaces to your final Sharpie mark that is 20 spaces away. And this will give you a calibration count so you can check to make sure the machine is calibrated correctly. If it reads 20 or a number very close to 20, then you're all set. If not, then you have to go back and make sure you set up the correct settings for the machine. Next, you slide in this holder and tighten up the knob to make sure the reel doesn't slide out when you're counting. Then you pull the reel up and attach it to this empty reel on the right. You just do this by sticking it through the hole and turning until the reel is secure. Then you take the handle and attach it to the right reel and start turning. And you don't want to turn too fast, otherwise the reel could become undone and you could get an inaccurate count. When you get toward the end of the reel, you want to make sure you stop at the last full space. You don't want to count those empty spaces at the end. And now you record the number on the reel counter. After you've recorded the number, you can pull out the rest of the reel, reattach it to the original reel, reattach the handle, and crank up the reel back on the original reel it was on. And these are the steps to use the reel counter to get an accurate measurement when counting your parts. Thank you for watching.